Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diaries podcast, a show on the human stories behind indie game development. This is your loyal Indie Diaries and host, Antonio Wolf, and today we're here with Indie Diary number 64 with Golden Horde Studios. Sean from Golden Horde Studios, the Golden Horde Studios team got in touch, and I welcome Sean for this specific episode. Shoni Island is supposed to be out this week, so do check it out on Steam. You'll find the link in the show notes, but this was such a beautiful conversation with Sean. We had like a lovely exchange, and you'll see that I've kept the prologue section, which I had a lot of fun going through with Sean himself. Now, before we get to the episode, I want to shout out, as usual, to amazing patrons Zagini, Fishbone Dev, and Peleg. Thank you so much for your support, guys. And if you two listeners want to support the show, you can go to the show notes or patreon.com/theindiediaries and check out my tiers, which include access to episodes in advance, live-streamed episodes, and a lot more, starting from the price of $125 per month. You can also join the Discord server, you can follow me on social media, you'll find all of the links in the show notes as usual. But now, let's get into the episode, Indie Diary number 64 with Golden Horde Studios. Hello everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diaries podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. As you know, I'm your loyal host and Indie Diaries, Anthony Wolf, and with me today is Sean from Golden Horde Studios. So Sean, we connected thanks to like a common acquaintance, as someone who follows me on LinkedIn. Nat, hello Nat, if you're listening to this episode, I think you will be. So Sean, please say a few things about yourself, what you do, where you're based, where you're working on right now, and then we'll go into the icebreaker section. You already have a little taste of what that is gonna be, but yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me on. It's great to be here. Yeah, so I'm British. I'm based in Bulgaria, where I live with my wife. Previously, I was in academia, in psychology, political science for a while. And then I wrote a book, and then between the last few drafts, I took up programming, initially with data science, and then basically abandoned the PhD and the academia and moved full-time into programming. Fast forward 4 years, here we are. We have a game. Hopefully it'll be released one day.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's a great overview. Okay, so let's get started then with this episode. Now, these episodes are about, the human stories behind indie game development, as I said. So it's all about you and your path into game dev, but also about your studio. So we're going to have some chances to talk about it. But since, it's the beginning, I like to start with a prologue that I call, an icebreaker that I call prologue to the personal indie diary. So I'm going to have a timer here. It's going to run for 60 seconds, and I want you to answer as many questions as you can from the list that I have over here in 60 seconds. So it's a little bit tight, I know, because I've got about 10, 11 questions, but we're going to make it work, and I think we can make it. So Keep your answers short and punchy. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, let's go. So, what's the first game you ever fell in love with?
Resident Evil 2.
Beautiful. Okay. If you could only play one genre for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Strategy 4X.
Great. Okay. This is a tough one. What's the most underrated game everyone needs to play?
Oh, come on. Parappa the Rapper.
Oh, I like that. Okay. That's nice. What's your favorite gaming snack?
Nuts, peanuts, spice.
Okay. Now, what's your guilty pleasure game? Something you love but know isn't perfect.
I don't really. I don't play that many games. Rocket League. I don't know. That's probably
okay. Rocket League. That's okay. Good. Okay. If you could be a game character for a day, who would you be?
I'd be Leon from Resident Evil 2.
Okay. And we're at time. Great, Leon. Yeah, no, that's Leon from Resident Evil or.
Well, the Resident Evil series, I guess, but yeah, 2 as well.
Oh, Resident Evil series, okay, not just one specific. Okay, well, actually, you did pretty well. Only 2 questions left, but one I'm gonna ask you anyway. So, pitch your game in 10 seconds or less.
I need to think, and then I'm going to start speaking. I'm gaming.
Yeah. Now there's no timer, so yeah, you're perfectly fine.
It's black and white meets The Sims, cozy, city building, relaxed experience.
Black and white, that's a good reference. I love that. Okay. Amazing. So, right. Well, I hope the icebreaker was helpful and got you in the right mood, because this is going to be a nice and relaxed chat from now on. We can slow down the pace and we can actually give more thoughtful answers, I guess.
Well, that's good, because I nearly had a heart attack during that. So
okay,
great.
no, well, never again then. No, not going to do it again. Think about that. I was imagine that I was planning. I was debating whether I should, and maybe I'll do it for future episode. I was debating whether I should do half during the intro and then half later during the episode, just to keep up the pace. But if that causes heart attacks to people, maybe not.
It's just no. You ask good questions, and it just it puts you on the spot a bit, because you like I don't know. I've never thought about that before.
No, I have to confess something to you. I did a little experiment, and with the guest before you, I shared the questions in advance, but with you, I didn't. So, and that was deliberate.
Corruption. Corruption. How much do you have to pay?
Oh no! That's I don't disclose those figures. But yeah, no. But actually, you did very well. Really interesting answers there. And now we're gonna dive a little bit more into your story and what you like to do. So, well, going back to one of the questions that I actually asked you, you said that the first game that you fell in love with was Resident Evil 2 specifically, right?
Probably, yeah.
So is that, like, I don't suppose that is going to be the very first memory that you have about video games, but what would that be? Like, what is the first thing you remember that is linked to video games?
First ever memory would be playing, do you know, I can't remember what console. Maybe it was the Atari. It was duck shooting. We had like the gun.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Uh-huh.
That's very first memory. Actually, Pong. I genuinely remember playing Pong on someone's TV.
Pong, very young. Okay.
But like first gaming experience would have been the Super Nintendo, Mario Kart, and Super Mario World.
Nice,
just spending hours and hours.
Duck Hunt was a good one though, yeah. Duck Hunt, really good one. Okay. Do you think? Well, you said that your game is like Black and White meets The Sims, I think. But in any case, it's like a resource manager simulator. Now, I know you sent me a code for the alpha, I believe. I didn't have a chance to try it, but I will before the episode goes live, so I can do a little intro for the listeners, so that they have first-hand experience. Well, the second-hand experience, if anything. But I'm curious then, that those games that you played during your childhood, do you think they're experiencing the kind of the kind of projects and experiences that you want to build for players now, in any way?
That's a really good question. I guess, do you know, honestly, the honest answer is the game started as just kind of like I'm not really sure what to do now. A project I was working on before kind of collapsed. My wife was playing at the time Virtual Villagers. Have you ever heard of Virtual Villagers?
No, but I'd like to play it. Okay.
No, nobody has. It's a very obscure reference, but it's one of these games you play in high school, secondary school, where like you bring in a floppy disk and it's on there. It's very low.
Okay.
Low overhead. Right. And so she was playing that, and I was like, I can make that game. It's very easy. It was a very old game, so not a big challenge. And then it just kind of morphed. It kind of I started drawing comparisons to black and white. I remember my black and white days, and I guess the experience I'm trying to capture is to create like life. That the player can sit back and just things happen independent of the player, which is what I felt during black and white. And just general these kinds of like grand sim games.
Yeah, no, I love those grand sim games. Like, they're a genre that I really love, like, to bits. Black and White, I have very good memories of Black and White.
Yeah.
I think it came out way before my time, or way before I started having a PC to play those games. But then I kind of recovered it after time, and I was able to play it. And yeah, it was just fascinating. I've always been wondering, why is the Black and White series dead now? It's just exactly. It's such a shame, because it really was one of the ultimate world sim management experiences, in my opinion. So yeah, it's great, and it's great that like it inspired developers like you, of course. This is different for everyone, but when did you realize you wanted to make games? Like, was there some sort of a lightable moment that made you tell, oh yeah, this would be something I want to do?
No, it was almost the opposite. It was I was in, as I said before, data science for a while, for a couple of years, which seemed like a natural progression from academia and statistics and things like that. And I remember picking up a book that was about C++, and I was like, I might as well learn another language. And it was just like, do it through games by making like these basic AI kind of games, like tic-tac-toe, these kinds of things. And then I was like, why? And then I got Unreal Engine. It was free. And I was like, why have I not been doing this? I love games. It just seemed, I don't know. I guess it was a light bulb. I guess it was like the moment where you download Unreal and you're like, this is the thing that anybody can do, really. Any programmer can do at any point. Um, so yeah, that's the entry point. Bit of an accident.
Okay. Yeah, no, but that's interesting, and a lot of believe it or not, a lot of like the game developers kind of stumbled upon game development by accident, based on what I've heard on the show. It's just something that at some point happens. Maybe you meet the right person. Maybe you just have that flash of an idea. Maybe you see the credits for a game and you're like, oh, there's actually people making games. There's
Yeah.
actually a job role for this kind of stuff. And so you kind of start thinking about that. It's always cool, always as a child, of course, but yeah. Now, I mean, we are into part 2 of the episode, I would say, because I'd like to divide these in like chapters. So we've gone through the origins, okay, but now let's go into the thick of the development era, I would say. What do you think is a big development challenge that you've overcome, and how has it shaped your approach to games?
I guess the thing is, there are many solo developers out there, and that's how most people start. I mean, everybody really has to start. And you can't do it all. There are some people I've met who are very talented artists. You know, they can model. But ultimately, if you're making a game of a reasonable scope, you will always run into a part that you just can't do. You can't do
Yeah.
UI. You can't do some aspect of AI. You can't do whatever it might be, marketing. You know, any aspect of making a game. And to overcome it, I don't think this was my idea. I think I must have got this idea from somewhere else. I'll quote them
Okay.
if I can remember. But I was like, why not just give people a portion of the, to promise a percentage of income, right? And so like we're all working on it in our free time, like me. You know, we're all making this game that we kind of believe in, and we all share in the rewards. And so we actually have quite a big team now. We're up to 12 people as of now. Everyone on kind of a share, like a deferred payment or a. And so like that's the best way I found to kind of overcome these obstacles. Is if there's a bottleneck somewhere in the pipeline, you can just get somebody in and say, hey, look, if the game does well, we'll all share in it. Otherwise, it's just a good experience for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, no, I like that answer a lot. And I guess, I mean, we are taking a little bit of a step back, but already in your career day, in your like professional career days, I'm curious, like, what, like, being a data science, how has that shaped the way you like your approach to game development? Is it like, do you think there's some overlaps, or there's some well, of course, you know, there's programming skills that you can transfer across, but like, do you think you have a specific mindset in game development that you wouldn't have if you weren't a data scientist?
I guess organization
Uh
is
huh.
an important thing, and I'm not sure it necessarily. It's kind of personality based more than profession based. You know, you go into a profession because you have a certain mentality, but
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
you need things in certain boxes. You know, like
Mm,
and data is very much like that. If it's not organized well, then you can't deal with it. It's
yeah.
chaos. Even if it starts as chaos, you have to. That's your first port of call is to clean it up and organize the data. So
Uh-huh.
I think that helps when building systems, and game development is all well, development in general is all about building
Of course.
one complex system that contains another complex system which contains a
Uh-huh.
thousand others that will have to kind of interact and cooperate together. And so they have to
Mhm.
be compartmentalized and very well organized.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Like as a data scientist, you're probably very clean, following very very set design code design principles and whatnot, which maybe not a lot of people do out there.
Yeah.
So
There's
yeah,
still a lot of hand waving going on, even in data science. Like
of course, there's
machine
always
learning is
is.
like, the algorithm seems to work. Let's just step away
Yeah,
and ship it, ship it.
exactly. Yeah, ship it. Right. Well, I mean, you sent me a code to the alpha, but did you have a chance to have many players try your game yet?
Not really, no. I mean, we have internal testing, which is the team and a few friends and other people I've recruited along the way. But no, at the moment we haven't really had a
Okay.
chance to for people. But actually, part of the reason is because it hasn't been stable enough to be
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, makes
shown to
sense.
the world.
Absolutely.
And even when I gave you the code, I'm like, it's not really ready yet. You know?
It's fine. I mean, I understand. I did have a couple games, very small, like from 2 game jams last year, but I understand the struggles. Don't you worry about it. Um,
Yeah.
but even friends is fine, because for my next question, I think they will still work. what's one of the most memorable reactions someone has had to your game? So they maybe didn't know anything about it.
I can give you one actually that happened today, because we've just this is probably not actually the right direction to take the answer, but it's a positive reaction. So we're developing we're nearly finished with our kind of intro, because there's a bit of a story behind the game.
Okay.
No spoilers, but we've kind of, our artist has designed some 2D images, and we're kind of putting all those together in kind of a storyboard format, like a 1.5 minute video with music, and we have a really good voice actor who's doing the voiceover. And yeah, we finished with the first draft today, and a few people sent it out, and actually Nat's wife listened to it. If I'm name dropping here, listened to it and was like, "Oh my god, you're actually making a proper game." And I think we've had a few of those, a few times where we've had some like system where, I don't know, for example, like when we unlock something at level 50 and things change in a dramatic way, and it happens to someone, and it makes them realize that, oh, it's a friend who's doing like a little crappy game, but it makes them realize that it's actually
you're doing a proper game.
It's a proper game.
It's a proper game.
I don't know where the line is between
exactly.
crap and proper, but somehow at some point we managed to surpass it. That's
exactly. No, but that's nice. That's positive, actually. Yeah. And I really like that. It must have been like a nice reaction to see or hear about. Yeah. Okay. And like, of course, we talked a little bit about your game and what you're doing with it. But what would you say is one? It could be a story beat, but no spoilers, or a mechanic that maybe you're particularly proud of.
Okay, well, I'm going to say the first thing that comes to my mind, which is so black and white fans will remember that you're a god, and you control a hand that is able to interact with the world. We have a god hand, so we have a hand in the game. It's designed by our character artist, and rigged it myself, animated it. It's a bit creepy, but I guess that's kind of the point. It's a bit like, it's just a disembodied hand. And it just changed the game, really. It made it, because it was cursor only before, you're just dragging things around with the cursor, interacting with the cursor, and now you actually have a physical presence in the game. So it was really fun to get that in, to make it smooth, get it working really nicely, and to have like a two-tiered system where you have the god hand interacting with the world, and then you middle mouse button, and you can control the few UI elements that are out there. So yeah, that's up there, I'd say, with one of the most proud.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. I imagine it's a bit of a challenge to make it work in a way that makes sense and is also like a good experience for the player to maneuver and see around. So yeah, it's good. Well, I mean, we haven't talked about your studio and such, but like, where does the name come from? And most importantly, how did it come together? Like the whole studio, I would say.
All right, how long have you got? So I suppose.
Oh boy, well,
I'll try and keep it brief. No, I guess the beginning of the game predated the inauguration of the studio, but it came about because I really wanted to make. My background is in educational stuff, educational psychology, and that kind of stuff, and I wanted to make something that would. I remember a game called 1979 Revolution, I think it's called. It's about the Iranian Revolution of 1979, and you play as like a photographer who's kind of wandering around Tehran at this time, and like the revolution breaks out, and it makes you feel like it's a brilliant game. The mechanics are great. It's kind of a point and click, kind of Telltale style game, but you learn so much. You learn about the environment, you feel the era, and it made me think that games can do that. Games can really can teach. They have the capacity to teach. Obviously, we have educational games that are mostly awful, if that's their primary focus. But I really wanted to try to make games that would, first and foremost, be really, really good games that were fun to play, but also carry some kind of educational weight. And so at the time I was reading a book about the Mongolian Empire, Genghis Khan and his descendants.
A light read, like just something for a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's a really good trilogy. It's a guy, he's got a really strange name, the British author, I can't remember his name. But I was reading that and I was like, this is brilliant. Wouldn't it be amazing if you could make a game about, the rise of Genghis Khan when he's a kid and he's, starts taking over his little corner of Mongolia and then expands across the whole world. And then the Golden Horde were basically a branch of the Mongolian Empire that made it all the way east, basically all the way to the gates of Vienna, and then got thrown back. Um, and so it kind of captured what I wanted the studio to be about, which was about this historical, educational, and also the glory of that particular era in the Mongolian Empire. So yeah, that was quite good. It's like 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, we got not even 5 minutes. I think yeah, you kept it within 4. Yeah, no, great, no, really, really interesting. And well, this question I've never asked before on the show, but it came to me just as you were talking now about the Mongolian Empire and the story. I'm like, because what I've noticed is, in my case, I'm a writer, of course, so that helps. But all of my game ideas usually come from like a story nugget. And in that case, it sounded like the same thing, because you were like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great to have a story of Genghis Khan as a kid and his rise to the Mongolian Empire? So do you think that, I mean, I'm even struggling to phrase this, how many games out there do you think were born of a story idea, and how many from a mechanic idea, and which one would you rather play?
I think it's a really good question. I think it depends on so if you have different domains within game development, you've got developers, animators, marketers, producers. I think it depends which one of those minds has the initial idea, pitches the idea. I think someone like a developer might be more mechanic based, like this is a really good idea, let's kind of roll with that and build a game out of it. I think people who are in narrative design, people like yourself, which are, I think, at least in my experience of indie developers, a big portion of ideas tend to come from people in working in narrative. They'll start with this seed of an idea, and they'll kind of expand from there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a very. I mean, I guess the problem is the two have to work in tandem.
Yeah,
like you can have a great story and a crap game, and vice versa.
And this is what strikes me about your story in particular, because you come from a data science background, you come from a very technical background, I would say, and yet the idea came from a story. So that overlap was interesting to me, and I guess that I found it very nice that you have those kind of two souls within you, I would say.
Yeah, you find I mean, I guess. Well, let me start with a question. Then. I mean, when you were doing, I looked a little bit at some of the games you were doing. I mean, the experiences that you had, did you feel like you had to wear different hats? Were you just focusing on narrative, or what else?
Oh no, totally. Well, they were for a game jam, so I managed to find like a little team, and so I was the lead programmer, the kind of project lead, the game designer, and such. So yeah, I kind of wore a lot of different hats.
Right.
But what I tried to do always, as a narrative designer, I think that is the kind of thing that I like to do, was always thinking, okay, this story idea is good, but how can I translate it into a mechanic? So, or this mechanic is good, but how does it fit into the story? So one of the games is called Broken Dawn, and the theme for the jam was Calm Before the Storm. So the idea there for a story just kind of comes to you pretty naturally. There's a lot of things in there that can be involved, like loss, like something before a tragedy or something like that. And so the core mechanic for that game is like a timer that is constantly on screen, and when it runs out, something happens. But that is part of the story, because it affects the characters and the world and whatnot. So that is the kind of approach that I like to have, but I don't know if everyone has it. And in my experience, it might not be the case. So yeah.
I'm seeing a theme here, the timers. You like timers.
I like timers.
You like putting people under pressure, under time pressure.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, I think the timers make you, they put you on the spot, but pressure sometimes makes you more instinctive, more creative in a way as well. But because creativity and constraints and such. But I'm not really that much of a fan of timers. It's just a coincidence, I would say. But maybe over the past year, I developed like an interest in timers. Who knows?
See, that's kind of interesting as well, because the genre, like we're kind of in the cozy space, and it's it came from. I played The Forest, for example. If you played the games like The Forest, and zero examples come to mind now. But the most fun, for me at least, part of the game was to build stuff. Go away, cannibals, leave me alone. Like I'm trying to, and it was stressful. Yeah. I found like I'm building stuff, and then these things would come and knock it down. I'm like, no, stop destroying it. Minecraft is the same.
It was annoying.
Like, they introduced the zombie mode or the evil mode, but in the beginning it was like, and so like I wanted to avoid that pressure. I wanted to get away from like the stress of like there's things trying to kill you, and there's murder, and there's blood, and there's violence. Just wanted to create a game that you're just like, all right, sit back, spend 3 or 4 hours, have a cup of tea, and just chill out. So I mean, both have both engage you in some way. But
yeah, of course. But it's a trend that I'm seeing more and more. Like a lot of people create the games where you can just build. You have no, well, in your case, I suppose there will be goals and like some objectives to follow. But in some games that I've played, even some demos that I played for the last Next Fest, like there was a game where you could just build. You had everything available from the beginning, and you could just build whatever you wanted. Just focus on building something cool. It wasn't Tiny Glade. Tiny Glade is
okay,
an
yeah, I was
example,
going to
though.
say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
That's the first
phrased
thing
it.
came to mind.
It wasn't Tiny Glade, but Tiny Glade is another example. You just build. You don't have an objective. You just build something cozy, something cool that you like, and then you take cozy, nice little screenshots, and it's very relaxing. I think it's a nice way to offer people a break from the pressure of, you know, even games themselves can be very stressful sometimes. So yeah, but it's an interesting new trend that I'm seeing, and it's nice that you caught on it in a
Yeah.
way.
I guess time will tell if it's going to be popular. I mean, the thing about games, and I suppose any entertainment in general, is that it does have a tendency of speaking to the lowest common denominator, of trying to engage. Like social media is great, you know, it engages those primal instincts of negativity and shouting and fighting each other. It has great things, but it's also quite. So I don't know. Maybe the same with cozy games and versus traditional violence games. People who love violence so much that they'll just always gravitate towards it. But I guess we'll see. We'll see how it evolves.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows? But you know, it's an experimental new current. Interesting to see develop, I suppose, as it happens in art all the time. But yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So chapter
Absolutely.
2 is done. We're near the end. There's I've got only 3 more questions for you. And it's time to get into the reflections part of the episode. So, as if the what came before wasn't reflective enough, now I have even more questions on self
Is there a
reflections and
timer?
such. No, there's no timer.
Okay.
But this question is one that my listeners know about, and I will always keep it on the show no matter what. I'll ask it to everybody. Why are you a game developer, Sean? What is it that drives you forward?
Uh, I don't. I don't know. I don't know is the truth. I mean, I enjoy aspects of what I'm doing. I love programming in general. I definitely don't love data. So it's nice to be. I love the creative element as well. That within game development, even as a programmer, you can get into very technical but still very creative areas. Technical art, environmental art, technical animation, things like that. But I suppose first and foremost, I like being on a team and building something together, and everybody's getting something out of it. Everyone feels, and to be the person, I suppose, that's trying to kind of glue all of that together. I suppose like a more production kind of role. Yeah, I would say because it's an area of development or an area of programming that allows you to express your creativity, which in data science you definitely can't do.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. Yeah, no, it's a lovely answer, and I think you're the first in over 60 episodes of the show. I think this is going to be number 65. You're probably
Lucky number
the
65.
yeah, a little better than 69, but you're probably the the first person to say right off the bat, I don't know. A lot of people think about it for a second, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, it's this reason, which is usually similar to what you said. Like, "Oh yeah, it brings everything together. It's a nice discipline." But you're the first one to say, "I don't know," and I loved the candidness there. It felt very very authentic. So yeah, really really nice. And what do you think so far, apart from data science, which apparently you don't love that very much? What do you think has been the toughest part of your journey so far, and how did you push through it?
In game development or in
Yeah,
programming in general? In game
maybe
development.
in all of it. Yeah, it could be anything that comes to mind.
Okay, well, I suppose I started game dev just before the whole industry imploded, and
Yeah.
at that time, it was you need 2 years and a ship game, so, and that's kind of already mid level or junior mid level, and then things exploded, and then and then so I found myself in a situation where I'm like, I've got the experience now, and all the experience that used to be okay to get you through the door, and then suddenly the market's flooded with senior developers trying to find a job. So I guess the most
Yeah.
difficult thing is trying to adjust to that, and trying to figure out within this new, or try to kind of see a little bit into the future, because it's clear that this is not a blip. This is not like it's not a temporary readjustment. It's something is
It's
changing.
massive. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
systemic change. It's huge.
yeah, absolutely. And like, the new technology, the new technologies that we have, the growth of Unreal, even in the time that I've been working with it, has been phenomenal. So we have access to really powerful technology, and I feel like, obviously I'm biased, but I feel like um, indies will have a lot to do with shaping the future of the industry, and so I'm excited by that. But it's also terrifying because you don't know a year from now, our game is suddenly going to stop spending money. Is there going to be a new uh, form of monetization that's going to completely consume the business models that we've been used to? So it's unpredictable. It's been unpredictable for a while, and nobody really knows where they are, what they're doing. Layoffs are being announced still, week by week. So yeah, the
Yeah,
state of the industry.
it's grim, but I've been reading up on it. I've been listening to podcasts. I've been trying to understand exactly what's been going on. Everybody kind of says the same thing, which is, it's shit because it all comes from the COVID inflated era of growth where loans were easy and a lot of companies just started growing indefinitely. They thought that they could sustain the growth forever, but not really. And so they started hiring, and then they froze hiring, and then now they're having to cut costs because they just can make ends meet. But also, I loved what I think it was Kazurai, like the former CEO of Sony, or it was someone else from Sony anyway, said that games are unsustainable at the moment. Like some AAA games take up to 300 millions to make, maybe even more, and that is just it's just impossible. Like trying to make games of that scale and developing them for years becomes, of course, at some point you're going to have to cut costs, because unless you sell a whole lot of copies, but like a really whole lot of copies, you're going to have to make a profit as well, and then pay the employees, and then satisfy shareholders and whatnot. And there's something broken in there, and I think it's how much the new technologies make developers feel they can do more rather than do better the things that they already do.
Yeah.
And that could probably be the key, but that is probably a topic for another episode entirely. So
it's a big one, yeah.
Yeah, it is a big one. Maybe I'll talk about it with someone. I'll find someone to speak to when it comes to this, because I think it's an interesting one.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so last question for you in the reflections, I would say. If this were of course, I call these episodes indie diaries. So this was your indie diary so far. If this were your final note or diary entry to players, to other developers, what is one message that you'd leave for them?
Make a game, I guess, bottom line. Start your own, join projects. There are plenty of people out there in exactly the same position.
Yeah.
If you want to get into games, doesn't matter what discipline you're in, whether it's marketing or art or whatever it might be, do it. Find someone, spend some free time doing it. It's extremely fun, extremely rewarding, and there's a slight possibility you'll make some money at the end of it. So just
exactly.
Don't think about it. Do it.
Yeah. People still make money make money. Yeah, they make money, but also people still spend money on games, which is, for now, the most important thing. Then in a year, who knows? But make your game now. Right, so we're at the epilogue, Sean. Thank you so much. It's been such a lovely episode. Loved talking to you, and we just went a little above 3 minutes with some unexpected questions that I threw into the mix, because some of them I wasn't expecting to ask myself. So I just have one last question for you, and that is all you. This is all you. Where can other people find you or your studio? And if they do, what is the best way to support you right now?
We have a website, goldenhordestudios.com, where you can find links to all of our social medias. I would say, if I had to call to action one thing, please come and join our Discord. We love, as an indie studio, we really want to make a game that's based on what people want. And we want you to help shape the game that we make. And so we'd love to come hear your feedback. We're also open for testers as well. So please come, join the community, follow us everywhere, and come and ask me questions as well. Doors always open, metaphorically. Right. Don't come to my house.
Oh, perfect. So I'll put all of these links in the description of the episode so people can find you and just support you in any way possible, including the link to the Discord. I'll put it as the first link as well, so people can just click there and just join you guys. But thank you again, Sean. What else can I say? Thank you so much for a beautiful episode together. And yeah, wishing you the best of luck with Shoni Island and with Golden Horde Studios.
Thank you so much, Ant. It's been wonderful. Great chat.
Wonderful. All right, and that's a wrap on another episode of the Indie Diaries. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Sean, for being an amazing guest to have on the show. This was one of the best episodes to open 2025, the 2025 season with, and I'm so happy that it's just at the beginning of the new year. It just sets the tone and mood for the entire year ahead and all the plans that I have over the shows. Thank you so much, and best of luck with Shoni Island. I love discussing everything with you, from black and white to creativity to the current state of the industry, narrative design, a lot of things. It was just a lovely episode. Now, listeners, if you enjoyed the show, and if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe. But if you enjoyed the episode, please check out the show notes. You can, first of all, support Sean. You'll find a lot of links there, but you'll also find a lot of links to support the Indie Diaries, which is me. I'm a one-man band. It's a one-man show. I just rely on my community a lot, and of course, it's a listener-supported show. So please check out my Patreon if you want to help me out a little more, and you'll see all my tiers there, but you can also just, say hi in the Discord server. I still appreciate that. You can find all the links in the show notes, but also on theindiediaries.com. And lastly, if you're an indie game developer yourself, please get in touch, because I've got a packed schedule for 2025, and it's probably better to get in now, and I will never say no to someone who wants a platform to tell their story.